There's an old idea, older than any one culture, that you don't give a man a weapon until you've taught him how to dance. The wisdom in this metaphor seems clear enough. A man who knows only how to fight will eventually destroy himself and everything around him. But a man who can move with strength, with grace and control, who can dance with his own fire, becomes something much more. For that man, the self-same fire within him becomes a support for the city, not a breaker of it. A part of the mosaic, that unity that precipitates out of so many differences, that can hold it all together instead of a fracture running through it. 3,000 years ago, Aristotle said something related to all of this. A man without a city is either a beast or a god. Cities, he understood, aren't just places where we happen to live. They call us into being as human beings under a common banner. They gather our instincts, our appetites, our hopes, and our reason, and demand that we weave them into something bigger than ourselves. A public life, a civilization, a shared sense of meaning, value, identity, and belonging. Something that men in America crave, and yet somehow are failing to find and hold to, now more than ever. Why is this so? Inside each of us, and especially inside of young men, lies a tension that needs reconciliation. On one hand lies the primal, inchoate animal self, contractive, full of hunger, aggression, the will to dominate and survive. On the other hand stands the aspirational, spiritual self, expansive, reaching toward reason, beauty, truth, discipline, and harmony. The mark of the integrated human being, actualized citizen, however, isn't the destruction of one side or the triumph of the other. It's the paradox, rather, holding both in living balance. The weapon on the one hand, and the dance on the other. When we look at our cities in America today, we can see what happens when that balance collapses. As the only country in the developed world where an ever-increasing rate of mass shootings is an everyday part of our reality, there's a deep sense of grief and shame that those of us who truly believe in the idea of America are called now to confront. I believe there's a way out of this, but it cannot lie in simply falling back on old traditions or embracing technological innovation. It must lie, rather, in forging something new out of something ancient, a distinctly American vision of Jiujitsu, a form of the art that protects the spirit of the sovereign self without severing it from communal belonging, a version where strength and restraint, competition and compassion, communal responsibility and individual freedom aren't at odds with one another, but live harmoniously, side by side. How did I come to this insight? During my own time spent in Army basic training at Fort Benning, I found myself standing among a sea of young men, many of them still teenagers, trying to earn a place just like everyone else. To them, however, I was just the stupid old man who had no business being there. Too slow, too late, too out of step. Ultimately, in spite of countless speeches and exhortations I rendered, respect wasn't handed to me because of anything I'd said, and it certainly wasn't given because of who I was outside of those gates. It had to be earned the hard way, day after day, mile after mile, push-up after push-up. But no PT performance could compare to what happened when I took the initiative to teach the young soldiers some lessons in combatives in advance of the drill sergeant cadre. After discovering an old set of tattered wrestling mats nestled behind the lockers in our platoon bay, that's where something shifted. In the struggles and the rolls and the dance-like spectacle that ensued, when where raw instinct can only make you reckless, while skillful technique represents the surest path to victory. The gap between me and the younger soldiers began to close. They started to see that there was something more to strength than just being the fastest or the youngest. The chaos of the training field didn't disappear, but it changed. It sharpened. It gained a kind of dignity and humanity. Through this strange and beautiful art that I've given more than a decade of my life to, I was able to take the worst behaved platoon out of the 4 in our company and show them what could happen. They learned to govern themselves, to channel and master the fire inside of them in a way that reconciled the apparent oppositions between gentleness and violence, softness and strength. That experience stays with me because it was about far more than just winning or losing. It was about what it takes to carry strength without being consumed by it, about learning to embody both the weapon and the dance at the same time. And it showed what America adapting Jiu-Jitsu as a part of our own national identity could offer, not just to its sworn guardians, but to its citizens as well. Fast forward 7 years, and I find myself here in San Diego as a 3-time world and American national medalist in Jiu-Jitsu. I work as a strength coach for first responders, military personnel, law enforcement, and Jiu-Jitsu athletes, men and women who live the knife's edge between force and restraint every day. And never did I realize it when I first got on the path of becoming a fighter, that my academic pedigree as a one-time philosophy graduate student would enable me to see this art for its potential to solve such a pressing problem for American cities today. The urban mosaic isn't just made of roads, buildings, and commerce. It's made of people people strong enough to master their own fire, and wise enough to offer it in service, not in destruction. My name is James Dermengian. I'd be honored to share my full talk on your TEDx stage.